Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are in the early stages of the 2022 to 2023 offseason. We're 79 and 83 last year, which actually represented the Royals' best winning percentage in 5 years. Obviously, our hope is to do even better in 2023. To start moving in that direction, in our last episode, we kind of went through all of our arbitration available players and made either 1 year or multi-year offers to everyone we wanted to keep around, and then traded away some of the other players to hopefully supplement our major league roster and or farm system with talent that's better suited to what we're trying to accomplish here in Kansas City. In this episode, we are going to dig into two things. We are going to take a complete look at our 40-man roster and try to clean up some of the salaries from players who may not be in our long-term plans. You can see we've got about $33 million available for free agents now and about $40.7 million available for extensions. Hopefully, if we clean up a few players who aren't in our long-term plans, may not have minor league options left, etc., and either waive and DFA those players or perhaps trade them away for some assets that are more to our liking. We can hopefully add some players in the minors and majors and also hopefully open up a little bit of extra cash for us to spend when we get to free agency. The other thing we want to do in this episode is to finally find out whether Bobby Witt Jr. will win the American League Rookie of the Year award. Had a fantastic first season for us here in Kansas City. And looking at the award voting, I think he's going to be a pretty strong candidate. Looking at the other Rookie of the Year candidate, well, first we'll look at Witt and look at his numbers and then see if anyone measures up. Batted .250 with 32 home runs, a 115 WRC plus, and a 4.5 WAR. The 32 home runs were best among all AL rookies, as well was his 4.5 WAR. Some of the other contestants who will be competing with him for the award: Spencer Torkelson from the Tigers hit .244, 22 homers, 2.1 WAR on the season. Joe Ryan, starting pitcher from the Twins, was 15-7, 163 innings pitched with a 1.14 whip. Struck out almost a batter an inning and put up a 2.2 WAR, so he'll be a pretty solid candidate. Adley Rutschman from the Baltimore Orioles hit only .226, but with 19 homers, playing catcher for them, certainly a credible candidate. Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners batted .275, 17 homers and 24 steals, a 108 WRC plus and a 2.5 WAR. And Grayson Rodriguez, like Rutschman, also of the Orioles, 10-6 record with a 3.11 ERA, more than a strikeout per inning, and put up a 2.6 WAR. So he's obviously also another very strong candidate. Looking at some other candidates from our own team, Nick Pratto, 25 home runs, a 135 WRC plus, and a 3.7 WAR. So he is a strong candidate against Witt. Adam Oler, starting pitcher from the A's, 8-3 with a 2.64 ERA in limited action. Put up a 2.0 WAR in that limited action, though, so he's a good candidate. Another Royal, fortunately for us, catcher MJ Melendez, 13 homers, 2.5 WAR on the season. Stephen Kwan from the Guardians hit almost 300, 111 WRC plus and a 2.0 WAR. And then a couple others who stand out. Tristan Casas from the Red Sox hit .270 with 23 homers, 139 WRC plus and 2.6 WAR. So a pretty strong candidate there. And last but not least, Nick Allen of the A's, second baseman, hit .273 with a 2.4 WAR on the season. So tend to think that Witt certainly should be the favorite. Led the league in rookies with those 32 home runs as an American League rookie, led AL rookies with his 4.5 WAR. So as far as 537 at bats in his 130 games, putting up a pretty complete season, I think he's a pretty strong candidate. But going up against a starting pitcher with 15 wins. And then notably from what Casas did with the Red Sox, that 139 WRC plus and a 2.6 WAR and just 408 at-bats. He's going to get some votes also, and I think that certainly on our team, Prado and Melendez will get some votes. But the hope here is that Bobby Witt Jr. will be named Rookie of the Year shortly. We will see. I know that some viewers have been waiting for me to finally get to the punchline as far as whether he's won or not, and that will happen this episode. But before we get to Bobby Witt and the award season, as I mentioned, going to try to hopefully free up a little more money for free agency extensions. Hopefully we'll be able to put some more into scouting and development as we get into the offseason also. We are going to take a look at the full 40-man roster and everyone who's on a major league contract at this point, and figure out if there's any fat that we can cut off of the bone in terms of players that we're going to be potentially paying $700,000 or more next year that we don't really need as part of our system. So looking at the team, we've already declined Evan Longoria's option for next year. We've made an offer to Brad Keller in arbitration. Michael Taylor is signed. Whit Merrifield, we declined an option on him, so he'll be becoming a free agent. We made a 3-year offer to Amir Garrett. Nicky Lopez is signed. We've made an offer in arbitration to Scott Barlow. Lorenzo Cain and Chad Green, who are both brought in on trades, are both looking for $10 million-ish next year. Not willing to give either of them that kind of money, so they're going to hit free agency. Our backup catcher, Cam Gallagher, made an offer to him in arbitration, made an offer to Taylor Clark in arbitration. We did not make an offer to Ryan O'Hearn in arbitration, so he will be moving on. Alec Boehm, the first one we need to talk about. And Boehm is not arbitration eligible yet. You can see almost perfectly, at least according to our scout, the definition of an average major league hitter. He can play first base and third base now after we had him spend some time in the minors in Omaha this season training up at first base. So he is really kind of one of our utility infielders behind Prado, who's starting at first base, and Witt Jr., who's starting at third base behind the two rookies. So he should get some time at first and third backing those two up. Also can potentially play DH for us, and could maybe try to turn him into a left fielder, but he's going to have so little range out there and kind of a weak arm that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think he is what he is. He's not arbitration eligible yet, but certainly happy to have him back next year. Jake Brent's another player we need to make a decision on. Lefty reliever, had a brutal year for us with a 5.68 ERA in the majors and a 5.40 ERA in the minors. But we do still have 2 option years available for him. He's a left-handed arm, great fastball, good slider, still decent stuff in movement, and is also better against lefties than he is against righties. So still is a potential lefty specialist. Happy to have Jake Brent's with our team. Chris Bubich, we've already made an offer to in arbitration. Same thing with Dylan Coleman. Ivan Castillo is going to be an interesting decision for us. Was our backup shortstop and got some action at the major league level when when Lopez was hurt, but spent most of the year in Omaha. A solid defensive player, pretty versatile in terms of where he can play, just not much of a hitter. Probably will still keep him around. Does make decent contact and decent at avoiding strikeouts. But given that we recently made the trade for Ryan Kreidler, who looks to be probably a little bit better of a hitter and pretty similar defensively, can play second, third, and short for us, have somewhat less need for Castillo than we used to. Still kind of like that he's a plus contact, plus avoiding K's type hitter. When he gets into the arbitration years, maybe harder for him to keep, but right now on a minimum contract, fine having him around. Davis Daniel is another player on a minimum contract that we've got to figure out what to do with. Reliever, basically. He could start for us in a pinch. He has enough stamina. He has 3 pitches, but his stuff, movement, and control are all average to below average. 25-year-old, 2 option years left. That's probably why we'll keep him around as long as we can option him back and forth. Don't mind paying a major league minimum to him to have that optionality. Josh Dye, similar situation to Davis Daniel, actually a kind of league average type pitcher. He is a lefty, has 3 pitches, does not have the stamina to be a starter, really. I mean, he could go 4 innings if that's worth something to you. Pitched well in Omaha last year, and did okay when he was up with the big club. Pretty average with a 108 ERA plus, 100 ERA plus, and a 108 FIP minus. A little bit better against lefties than he is against righties, but he is someone who, the fact that he's still got 2 option years left maybe lets us keep him around, but he is definitely on the potential chopping block. Carlos Hernandez, kind of below average stuff, movement, and control now. He does have 5 pitches, an above average fastball, and then 4 others which are kind of average or below average. Good stamina, so he can start. The issue with Hernandez, though, is that this was his last option year. I don't see him being on the major league roster, and so I don't want to be paying him a major league contract given that we don't have any more options to kind of put him in the minors. So we're going to shop Hernandez, see if we can get anything at all for him. And if we can't, then what we will probably do is just waive and DFA him. And if nobody picks him up, then he can move on for us and stay in AAA, but at least it won't be on a major league contract anymore. And it looks like there are actually a lot of options here. We'll figure out whether any of them are worthwhile. And we have found a potential trade for Hernandez with the Nationals, with Trey Barrera, catcher, who's on a minor league contract. Slightly above average catcher ability and arm. The big benefit to us is that he's got 2 option years left. Certainly would not mind having someone like him in AAA to bring up and be our backup catcher at the major league level in a pinch if we have some injury issues. So going to try to put a deal together with Hernandez to bring on Barrera and maybe somebody else. And we've pieced together an agreement with the Nationals to not just get Barrera, but also relief pitcher Jack Dreyer in rookie ball right now, and he's going to be turning 24 next year. Probably just an organizational arm more than anything. Have to give up Hernandez, who we already mentioned, and then Derry DeJesus, who is a soon-to-be 20-year-old. Has only pitched in rookie ball and didn't really do anything of note there, so not a big loss to move on from him. They were also willing to throw in a little bit of cash to us, which we're always happy to take. So we are going to go ahead there and get Hernandez off of the books as we try to clean up our 40-man roster. A few other players for us to make decisions on. Nico Horner, we've recently signed to we've recently offered an extension. Would actually buy out his 3 arbitration years plus the first 2 years of free agency. So waiting to hear back from what he has to say on that. Kyle Isbell is kind of a backup outfielder for us at this point. Think we're going to keep him around a very average, if that, batting profile. Right now, however, he would be the best backup center fielder that we have behind Michael A. Taylor, so feel like we need to keep him in the organization for that $700,000 contract. Jackson Kowar is one we may want to move on from. Torn UCL, out for 8 months. Does have plus stuff, but below average movement and control, and really 3 pitches, although his curveball is borderline. So he's got the stamina to potentially start, but he's basically going to be out most of the next season. Does have 1 option year left, but honestly, if we use that option year next year, he may not be able to do much for us at the major league level until, say July, by the time he's fully rehabbed, maybe even later than that. Going to see if maybe someone will offer us something for Kowar. If not, we're going to waive and DFA him, and if he makes it through to AAA with that, would be fine to keep him around as long as we're not having to lock in major league money to him next year. And we're starting to see a pretty similar list of the players that people are willing to trade for kind of the guys that we are trying to get rid of. Doesn't look like anything substantively different from some of the offers that we've gotten before, but we'll still take a look through and make sure we're not missing something. And we are going to try to trade Kowar to the Padres for Jose Azocar. Probably a slightly below average batting profile, 26 years old, so probably not going to get much better. He is durable. The most positive thing, though, is he can play all 3 outfield positions, and he can play them reasonably well defensively. He actually could become, if we can't find somebody in free agency, he could become kind of the 5th outfielder on our team and the 2nd best defensive center fielder that we have behind Michael A. Taylor. And he's got 3 option years left, so we can be moving him up and down as need be. So he's also on a $700,000 contract like Kowar, so that's not going to save us any money, but I think we'll get a player who will be more useful organizationally to us than the injured reliever. And I think we found a pretty interesting trade with the Padres. Kowar, Connolly, and Edgar Martinez. Connolly and Martinez are organizational depth. Nothing particularly exciting about them. For Azocar, who could be our 5th outfielder, can play center field in a pinch. And then Mackenzie Gore. He actually had a relatively rough season in 2022 in terms of OOTP, with a 5.49 ERA in AA and then a 5.40 ERA in AAA. In real life, he's up with the Padres at the major league level, but it looks like OOTP kind of has him as a average pitcher with 4 pitches, though. Good stamina. The Padres apparently don't think as highly of him in OOTP 22 or 23, this version world that I've created here. Looks like, he's kind of a 4th or 5th starter at the major league level, but really happy to bring him on board and hope that maybe, the kind of lower ratings he has in the game here compared to how he's performing in real life mean revert somehow in the coming seasons. But very happy to bring him on board, even though we have to give up a major league pitcher in Jackson Kowar to bring him on board. Another guy we need to make a decision on is the left-handed reliever Richard Lovelady. Was injured most of the season last year, only pitched in 9 games between Omaha and KC, 6.75 ERA and 2 2/3 at the major league level. Pretty average profile, only 2 pitches, not a lot of stamina. Given that we've already got a few other lefties that we've talked about, and a few other lefties that we may still be keeping on. I'm going to see if we can get anything for Lovelady in a trade, and if not, we're going to waive and DFA him to try to open up some money for us. So, and we will have to sim ahead one day because we've used all of our trade options for this one day. So busy, busy, busy. And back to Lovelady, we'll shop him around and try to just focus on prospects, although we may not get much of anything if we do that. Number of prospects out there at least. Let's see if there's anything interesting. And we do have a couple options from the Pirates, both Yuri De Los Santos and Austin Roberts, 24-year-old closers under minor league contracts, and both have 3 option years left. So going to try to see if maybe we can get both of them. We'll focus the deal on Roberts first and see if we can add in De Los Santos. If we could bring both of them on board, the Pirates still like that deal for us. Would be happy to bring on a couple more minor league pitchers that we don't have major league contracts in exchange for someone that we're going to be guaranteed to be paying $700,000 to, who only has 1 option year left for us. And we were able to get both Roberts and De Los Santos into the deal. De Los Santos looks like at best a major league average right-handed reliever. Austin Roberts, actually a pretty similar profile. He does have a third pitch, so maybe he can be a little bit better. Basically both organizational depth, but the fact that they've got 3 option years left and they're under minor league contracts, only had to offer up Dante Biazzi also, who is a pitcher that has been in A-ball for us the last couple of years. Happy to kind of do that deal, get a little bit of contract off the books, and add a couple of guys who can potentially help at the major league level in a pinch, and most importantly, a lot of flexibility with both of them for the next 3 seasons, moving them back and forth between the big club and the farm system. Daniel Lynch started for us this past season and actually had a 3.45 ERA. Want to keep him around. Obviously, MJ Melendez, catcher of the future for us. Edward Olivares, going to be an interesting decision at this point. Kind of only an average bat, if that. And he's not as good defensively as some of the other players that we've brought on recently. So I think he's also in his last option year. So Olivares, we're going to either DFA him or trade him away. Let's see if we can get anything for him in a trade offer at this point. If not, we are at the very least going to waive and DFA him, and at least hopefully not have to be paying him or guaranteeing him $700,000 next year. And didn't get offered a ton for Olivares, honestly. We're going to try to trade him for the 23-year-old Maximo Castillo from the Blue Jays organization. Spent last year in Double-A, 7.12 ERA there. You can see a mediocre major league profile, but he is a younger player than Olivares, and he does have 3 years of options ahead of him, so just a more flexible player to have in our system. And again, we're also going to get $700,000 that's guaranteed off of our books for next year. And we tried to piece together an offer with Toronto to give us a little bit of cash back, as we always try to do as a small market team. We had to add in shortstop Tyler Tolbert, who 25-year-old by next season, hasn't gotten above A-ball with us. So although he's got a lot of speed, good at stealing, good at base running, just not a bat that's really going to ever be part of our future. So would rather have Castillo and a little bit of cash than Olivares and Tolbert. So we're going to go ahead and complete that trade as well. Looking at the rest of the players who are still under major league contracts, Vinny Pasquantino was up with the big club last year, 162 at-bats, 8 homers, 29 ribbies. 25-year-old could definitely be part of our future. The issue with him is he's a mediocre defensive first baseman. May look to try to train him up a little bit in left field in the off season, or more accurately the preseason and spring training, to give him a little more positional flexibility to have him around. Prado, we've obviously signed to the long front-loaded extension. Brady Singer, we made an offer in arbitration to him. Next decision is Kevin Smith, a third baseman, 26 years old. Just doesn't really have a major league bat. He does have one option year left, but honestly, with the depth that we have at first and third base right now, organizationally, with people like Bohm and Pasquantino and Prado and Witt Jr., I don't know that we need to be spending the money on him. May see if we can get something for him. He does have the flexibility to play second and short, but would certainly rather have Kreidler, who we recently traded for, on the major league roster, who's a better defender and probably even a better hitter. So going to see if we can get anything for Kevin Smith. If not, it might be time to DFA him as well. And you can see nobody offers anything for Kevin Smith, so we are just going to go ahead and waive and DFA him, hopefully get the money off of the books, and if nobody picks him up, happy to have him in AAA, as long as we don't need to have him on a minor league on a major league contract. Some easier decisions as we get near the end of the salary page. Colin Snyder hit a 2.66 ERA for us at the major league level. Could be a big part of the team and still has 2 option years. Gabe Spire, an option year left, lefty. We'll keep him around. Josh Stomont, we've offered him a 1-year deal in arbitration. Jose Suarez was part of our trade with the Angels. Very excited to see what he can do at the major league level for us this coming season now that he is healthy. Picked him up when we traded away Benintendi, most notably, and Anthony Simonelli to the Angels right before the trade deadline. So he is healthy now that we are in the offseason, and obviously going to have him around next year. Domingo Tapia, we have already waived and DFA'd, not going to have him next year. Hayden Wesneski, part of the Yankees trade that sent Salvador Perez to the Yankees, obviously want him around. Bobby Witt Jr., obviously we want him around as long as possible. Jojanse Torres, just traded for him recently. 3 option years left. Has really nice stuff and good movement, good fastball, good slider. Think he could still be a decent bullpen arm for us. We're okay kind of paying him the major league minimum. Juan Yepez was up with the major league team all season as kind of a utility outfielder for us. 12 homers, 48 ribbies, hit 247. Doesn't offer much at all defensively, either at the corner infield or the corner outfield positions, but not a horrible bat. Going to keep him around. And then Tyler Zuber is the last decision that we need to make. Right-handed reliever, has 4 pitches, but certainly does not have the stamina to start, and only 1 option year left. We're going to see if we can get anything for Zuber. If not, if we can't get anything from him through trade, then probably going to waive and DFA him also, and see if we can sneak him back into AAA without paying him a guaranteed major league salary. Yeah, and you can see nobody offered us anything for Zuber, so we are also going to waive and DFA Zuber. Again, hopefully he'll make it through waivers and get to AAA. But the benefit of all these moves is, as you can see, we're now up to $39.5 million for free agents by just kind of cleaning up the 40-man roster and making sure that we're not guaranteeing a major league contract to anyone unless we really want them on the on the roster next year. And as I said, got some players back in trade with more optionality or that fit our goals better. And then hopefully some of the guys that we have sent through in DFA'd, notably Tyler Zuber and Kevin Smith. If nobody picks them up, happy to have them in AAA for us on minor league contracts next year. So with offers to everyone we want to keep through salary arbitration now, we figured out what we want to do with our minor league free agents, only a couple of them that we want to bring back. And then most recently, having kind of cleaned up the 40-man roster a bit, and we kind of know who we are willing to pay major league money to next year and who we aren't. Going to start simming ahead and moving towards award season and find out, is Bobby Witt Jr. the American League Rookie of the Year? And have started to have some good news with all of the arbitration eligible players. We got Josh Staumont signed, Taylor Clark has signed, Manuel Rivera back in the minor league system. Nico Horner signed that 5-year agreement, averaging $7.4 million over 5 years. So great to have him locked in at second base alongside Nicky Lopez in our infield. Brady Singer, Cam Gallagher, Amir Garrett signed the 3-year offer we made him, and Brad Keller signed a 1-year deal to avoid arbitration. So at this point, our arbitration list is much smaller. Just waiting to hear what Bubic and Barlow decide with the 1-year offers we made to each of them, and then going to be moving on from Ryan O'Hearn after the season, or not after the season, after we get through the arbitration deadline. And Bubic has signed his 1-year extension to avoid an arbitration hearing. And the Gold Glove winners for the American League, Nico Horner, who we just signed to that 5-year extension, mentioned his bat, except for very weak home run power, is a little bit above average. So happy to have a player like him who is a very good and now Gold Glove winning second baseman locked up for the next 5 seasons, with Lopez, Horner, and Witt Jr. playing short, third, and second for us. Pretty happy with the youth and the defense, and particularly in the case of Witt Jr., the offense these players can potentially provide us for the next several years. So we have a Gold Glove. There is an actual award for the Royals this offseason. As we're going to be moving forward, the question is still a few days away from Rookie of the Year. See if we have any contestants for Reliever of the Year and Silver Slugger. I think those are both a little more doubtful, although I can't say I know what the third base profile really looks like. Would be a bit surprised if Witt Jr. won a Silver Slugger as a rookie, but you never know when you got 32 homers. And both Zuber and Kevin Smith have made it through waivers, so we're going to move them both to Omaha, but they're on minor league contracts now for the upcoming season, so saved a little bit of money and a little more flexibility for whatever we want to do in terms of our finances now that we got both of them through waivers and onto the AAA club. And Scott Barlow accepted the arbitration offer from us, and then Ryan Eads is going to be playing in the minor league system for another year for us. So making progress at both the major league and minor league level in terms of shaping the organization to look the way we want it to look in 2023. And not surprisingly, Bobby Witt Jr., almost unanimous Rookie of the Year in the American League, and the only reason he didn't get it was his teammate Nick Pratto got 1 vote. So the two of them, as well as MJ Melendez, were huge contributors to what the Royals did in 2022. Our expectation is that they're going to be even bigger contributors going forward. So Bobby Witt Jr., coming off of the 32-homer, 87 RBI season, 119 OPS plus, 4.5 WAR, now has a Rookie of the Year award on his resume, in addition to the AL All-Star award that he received back in July. Nick Pratto, as I mentioned, glad to have him locked up to a longer-term contract that bought out some of his free agency years already. Would be great if we can figure out something similar to do with Bobby Witt Jr. Going forward, but it's going to be a little more costly to do that now, given that he is now a Rookie of the Year award winner. I had mentioned in the previous episode, wanted to see whether the programming indicated that once somebody won the Rookie of the Year, their service time could potentially contract as it does in the new CBA, even if they were manipulated in the first season as we did with Bobby Witt Jr. Doesn't appear yet that that is part of this, but certainly that might be something that kicks in when we go through the end of salary arbitration or the beginning of free agency or even just year starting processing that goes on in the back of the system. So we'll keep people posted as to whether that is actually programmed into the game or not at this point. So we are now through award season, other than the Gold Glove for Nico Horner and the Rookie of the Year for Bobby Witt Jr. No other major awards for the Royals. Just by way of reference, Bryson Stott picked up the Rookie of the Year award from the Phillies in the National League. Garrett Cole of the Yankees, 12-10 record, but a 2.47 ERA, won the American League Cy Young Award over Shane Bieber. In the National League, Corbin Burns, 17-9 record, 3.28 ERA, easy winner of the award there. Little bit of a surprise, perhaps, although not really if you look at the numbers. But Tim Anderson, the American League Most Valuable Player Award for the world champion Chicago White Sox, 23 homers, 83 runs batted in, and a 316 batting average. Also, plays shortstop for them. Not a dynamic defensive shortstop, not Ozzie Smith, but a solid defensive shortstop who won the MVP award over Vlad Guerrero Jr., Byron Buxton, Mike Trout. Not surprisingly, no votes for anybody on the Kansas City Royals. And then last but not least, Bryce Harper, unanimous Most Valuable Player award with a monster year for the Phillies. 51 homers, 114 ribbies, batted .283, put up a 8.2 WAR for them with a 1.063 OPS, 184 OPS plus. So a huge year for Bryce Harper in the National League. And with that, we are about ready for free agency to begin with the moves that we made, making some trades, signing some players to extensions, waiving and DFAing some players. We're going to have over $40 million available for free agents and a good chunk for extensions as free agency begins shortly. So feel that we've cleaned up the financial situation of the team pretty well and have a lot of flexibility as we head into free agency. Getting some bats in our outfield is our number one priority. Our outfield has some holes in it right now, both in terms of offense and with the exception of center field in terms of defense. Looking ahead at the potential free agents, there's nobody incredibly exciting out there in the outfield, unfortunately, but we can always try to pull off a trade. Joey Gallo, Brandon Nimmo, Michael Brantley, the big three out there, but all looking for well over $22 million a year. We will likely be playing in a shallower part of the pool, maybe looking at potentially a reunion with Benintendi or a Jackie Bradley Jr., maybe a Michael Conforto. There's going to be plenty of options for us to think about, potentially even, down the list further. Do we reunite with Whit Merrifield or do we consider bringing in Manuel Margot for some better defense? So not a bumper crop of free agent outfielders, but hopefully someone that will be able to help us. And then the other hole on the team that we'd really love to fill would be a frontline starting pitcher. Clayton Kershaw is the, not surprisingly, star of the class. The issue is that he's out with a torn UCL for 6 to 7 months, so certainly won't be looking to add him, but there are options with Carlos Rodon, Chris Bassett, Mike Clevenger, Charlie Morton, Matthew Boyd, Carlos Carrasco, Zach Eflin, Sean Manaea, Joe Ross, Luis Severino. There are definitely options out there, so we are going to hopefully tackle that in our next episode and hopefully bring on some free agents who are not just able to help us win some games, but also fit in to the parameters we have set forth economically for this team. Before moving on to the episode, we are just going to bump up our scouting budget $2 million a year to $18 million, and also increase our development budget $2 million a year to $30 million. Just want to make sure that we don't forget to do that, and still should have plenty of money to be relatively active for the Royals in free agency. So until then, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day, and hope you've been enjoying the show. Would love to hear your comments down below.